Yeah, how's it going, guys? It's Richie, Unicorn Caller here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today, not really much news happened, but I did want to, I guess, kind of briefly talk about Wizard101 Europe. As you guys know, Wizard101 Europe is a little bit different than Wizard101 NA. They have a few updates behind, so we're just gonna, I guess, kind of talk about that and yeah, share my main thoughts about it. Now, personally, I don't want to speak behalf of the Wizard101 EU community, just because I personally have never played Wizard101 Europe, never touched it in my life. I just know that they're really behind updates, and just wanted to share, I guess, kind of a brief history about it. So, this happened around, like, I guess, 2021 slash, like, 2022, I would have to say. Don't quote me on the exact like year date that this transition happened. I just know that it happened like a couple of years back, and this is when KI basically bought Gameforge, which Gameforge was basically the one that was like kind of holding up the Wizard101 EU servers, and they've had like crazy deals and stuff like that. I think it was like 1 crown worth of like a level 50 and like elixir or something like that. I don't know. It was like they get some pretty crazy stuff back in the day, but obviously everything has a transition to a more standard model. But basically, you get these transition rewards back in the day: a free 2-week membership to the Wizard101 European servers, the new Wings of King's Mount, the new Dragon of King's Pet, and yeah, pretty much all that stuff. And it shows you down here a little bit more, I guess, FAQ about this whole entire transition. Back in the day, when this transition first started, I thought, like, oh, okay, that would be cool to bring, like, all the EU players to, like, the US global servers or whatever. No, it's a lot more sophisticated than that, I'm sure. And technology wise and research and just resources wise, I'm sure they weren't at that level. And I'm sure there were tons of barriers that they primarily just could not do. But basically, this is what it is. The EU servers would basically still be on the EU servers, except it's run by KI now, right? So this is the, I guess, Gameforge logo. It's going over to the KI. And this is the thing that said no. The Gameforge servers that are on EU are not going to the US KI servers, right? That was the main thing right there. And it says it right here. Wizard101 games worldwide are being realigned under one company, KI. Currently, KI runs the North American servers, and Gameforge has 7 unique servers. This includes the UK English, German, French, Spanish, Italian, Polish, and Greek. So this transition will be maintaining all individual servers, but now under one company, KI. So that's pretty much like the main loophole of all that stuff. And over time, they've kind of mentioned that, we want to keep EU up to date with NA. Some time has passed, and, it's sort of getting there on track, but at the same time, there are, a bunch of EU players that are, very just sad that they're not getting the updates, right? And whenever I make videos like these that discuss a problem, I want you guys to just take a step back and understand that this is coming from a completely new perspective. This is coming from, the EU player's perspective, right? So imagine yourself playing on Wizard101 Europe servers, right? And you see all these other YouTubers playing and stuff like that. You see all these cool updates, and you have to wait. I want you to just try and think like that. Because right now, we talked about Spellmint and stuff like that. That was all the way in 2024. These guys are still behind. Way behind, I would have to say. So, this was a tweet made December 13th, 2023. This is during, like, the 12 Days of the Spiral event, I'm assuming. We talked about this, too. So, Wizard101 EU, you get the, the raid and guild update. And, pretty cool patch notes. You get a bunch of stuff. You get guilds. You can make your own guild. You can go raiding if you want. You can make your raid key, get some raid loot, etc., etc. The max level for this is level 150. Now, you have to take in perspective, like I said, you are playing as an EU player, right? So for NA, or for Wizard101 NA, this came out all the way in the summer of 2022. Keep that in mind. They are just now getting the ability to make guilds and raids, right? Okay, think of it like that. I've been raiding for like 2 years now, right? They are just now getting that ability, right? Now, going all the way from over here, we are all the way up into the spring update for 2024. If we really wanted to count just how many years it's been, I don't know if you guys can see the screen, but it shows you all the years and updates we've had. We start over here at the guild and raid updates, and then we go all the way up here to Novus. So Europe's next update will be Novus. And by the time they probably will get Novus is the time that Wizard101 NA would probably get the summer update, which apparently is going to include another raid, which I probably won't be able to do just because still haven't even done the Crying Sky raid to begin with, right? And then they'll still need the Rate My Stitch update. And then they'll need the Crying Sky raid update, right? And then they'll need the Wallaroo update, which is the World of Wallaroo, right? And then we still don't know that during that time, because during Wallaroo, they said that they were going to make this dungeon, or they said they were going to break up gear, and then we had the Nightmare Dungeon release in, like, I believe January, and, you know, that was a whole thing. Everybody kind of shared their thoughts about it. Community roundtable, square table, blah, blah, blah. You know, that whole thing. Then I took a big break in, I think, February. Came back in the same month. And, yeah, I'm back here. I'm a basic whiz head. But they still have to get Wallaroo and the Nightmare Dungeon, right? And then after that, they would need to get the Portal of Peril update. And then after that, they would need that summer update, and then after that, they would need the winter update. So you put it in comparison of like how long of a gap it is, right? 2023, they are just now getting this. So by the time they even get caught up at this rate, it's probably gonna be like the bare minimum of like 2025 or 2026. And that's really dependent on kind of like, I don't know, the speed at what the team is working at, or how they're trying to transition these updates, because some of these updates aren't necessarily that big. I mean, I'm not a game developer. I don't know nothing about technology, but some of these are like big updates. They still gotta get Novus, right? They still gotta get Wallaroo and the dungeon for that, and they also gotta get that new raid. Those are a few big updates, if you ask me. So, the problem is that there's too much of a gap, right? Even though they did say that, you know, they are trying to, you know, get them up to date. But again, I want you guys to put this in the perspective of a Wizard101 EU player. Right? You're not playing on NA, you're playing on EU, and you don't even have a few of these updates. You can't even upgrade some of your spellments. Some of the spellments don't exist yet because they don't have that update yet. We just talked about the whole spellment problem, and all these new spellments are here, and now you can basically buy a pack and upgrade all your spells as much money as you want to spend. And then you gotta put it in the perspective. It's like, dude, that takes so long. That is a very long wait. It kind of reminds me back in the day of like Call of Duty. I think it was owned by like Microsoft, which like Xbox would get like the exclusive DLC like 3 months ahead or something like that. Something crazy like that. But these guys, people on EU, they're not even getting updates with like a 2-year gap. That's insane when you think about it. Now, like I said, you have to put this in the I keep saying this, you gotta put this in the perspective of an EU player, because when a lot of people watch these videos, they put it in the perspective of themselves. Like, oh yeah, I can max out my spellments, this is stupid. Or, oh yeah, I can do the raids easily, right, you guys just suck, right? You gotta put this in the perspective of them. They're not even getting this content in a same year bracket, right? So by this year, they should get Novus somewhere down the line. I'm hoping maybe as a summer update or maybe in the winter, but if they wait till the winter, then we would already have our winter update. Like, you see the problem here? There's a big gap in the updates, right? And, you know, it kind of goes back to, like, what I was talking about, the transition and stuff like that, of like, oh, you know, I was so excited to have some EU players play globally, but, you know, again, during the time, that was just not a thought, or that just was not possible during the time that this transition happened. And it really does suck, because I see these same comments from these same people over and over again talking about Wizard101 Novus EU when, and it's just like, I love the dedication, right? I love the dedication, but it's also just like super sad to think about, because these guys can't even play with us. And the fact that we're all the way up in 2024 and they're just now getting like guilds and raids is just shocking to me, honestly. Some people might have different thoughts about it or opinions, but personally for me, I would just like to see Wizard101 EU get caught up, I guess, a little bit faster. I don't know. It's just sad to think about. And of course, it's not easy like Thanos getting the Infinity Gauntlet and just snapping his fingers and then like, oh yeah, all the updates are here, right? It's definitely more complex than that, but it's just really sad to see, you know? So I'll let that ponder in your head for Friday. We just had an earthquake all the way on the East Coast. I'm sure some of you guys felt it, but if you didn't, everybody's safe and sound. First there was the storm and the power outage, and now it's earthquakes. I don't know what's going on in the world, but hopefully that will let you think about something over the weekend. And yeah, hopefully Wizard101 EU does get those updates soon, because, you know, again, it is just sad seeing that they don't get a chance to play this new content because they are on those EU servers. And I know a lot, and let me go off with this, and I know a lot of people are gonna say like, oh, Richard, they can just join the NA servers. And here's the thing, again, put this in the perspective of an EU player. They have all their saved data and gear and money spent on the EU servers, right? You know, they didn't know that they were behind the times. You know, you already put a lot of energy on that server, right? I put a lot of energy on this Wizard101 character, and a lot of people always question me, be like, why do you only play on one character? Because I have all my data on this one character. I only want to play on one character. So think about how this affects the EU players. They have probably multiple characters that are at least high level, right? And they're not just gonna start from scratch and be like, all right, back on the NA now, yeah, level up all the way back to level 170, and you gotta do all this, and it's just, it sucks. All right, so I'll let that ponder in your head for the weekend. This was a really nice discussion. I would love to know your guys' thoughts about Wizard101 Europe. If you don't care about it, that's fine, but just thought I might share a few cents about that. Until then, I will see you guys later. Have a good weekend. Please stay safe out there. I don't know what's going on in the world. Yeah, and until then, I'll see you later. Peace out.